we're going to do this two ways. One, we're going to actually work through this warm up, and then I'm going to actually have you go in, and I created like a practice submission quiz on Canvas so you can practice submitting these answers in format like you would do on tomorrow's quiz. So my goal is to run through it as if it was almost like your quiz, so you're comfortable with that kind of run through, okay? But first we're going to complete this warm up. So the first question just said to make a table of values and then sketch the graph of the equation. So we're doing the table, right? So I didn't give you specific points. I will tell you right now, you will get specific points on tomorrow's test, but there's no specific points that are tomorrow's quiz. So I'll give you the values. You will literally plug in the answers, which you'll see in a second. Actually, let me plug in. Oh, I'm going to plug in these values. So if I plug in -1, 1 minus -1 squared, I get 1 minus 1, which is 0. If I plug in 0, 1 minus 0 squared is 1 minus 0, which is 1. If I plug in 1, 1 minus 1 squared is 1 minus 1, which is 0. And if I plug in 2, 1 minus 2 squared is 1 minus 4, which is -3. That, Everybody good so far? Yeah, okay. Now I'm going to plug in these values, right? So on the homeworks, you actually created the points. The format on the quiz will be a little bit different. You don't have to do the actual coordinate points, but you'll see that in a second. So -1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 2, -3. And that's the only part of the curve you needed. Because it's a warm-up and I didn't give you specifics, obviously something along those lines is good, but it doesn't have to be exact. I will give you the X values to plug in for your quiz so that it's honestly easy for me to grade because I know what it should look like. Number 2 says find the X and Y intercepts. So the x-intercepts, remember, we find by plugging in 0 for y. So I get 0 equals x squared minus 9. I can either factor this to be x plus 3 and x minus 3 because it's a difference of two squares, and then split and solve. So I get x equals -3 and x equals +3. Or I can add the 9 to the other side, square root it. You just got to make sure you do the plus and minus. So I said this yesterday, but I'll stress it again, that the format of these answers are going to be -3, 0, and 3, 0. So I want them in coordinate point form, okay? If you want to make a habit of always putting the smaller one first, that's fine. But as far as the quiz goes, I would take both orders. So I would either take -3, 0, and 3, 0, or 3, 0, -3, 0. And the quiz is actually going to say if there's more than one, separate them with a comma. So you will type them in exactly like this, no spaces. It says no spaces. If there's more than one, separate them with a comma. I can obviously adjust like format points, but just realize the easier you make it on me, the better mood I'm in, the more likely you're going to get some partial credit. So just try to make sure you read the directions when it comes to format of answers. It's a good habit because when we get into WebAssign, it would specifically say, put the smaller x first. And so you would just make sure you follow that in order for it to mark you correct on things like that. All right, next up is the y-intercept. Y-intercept is where we plug 0 in for x. So I get y equals 0 squared minus 9 and y equals -9. So this coordinate point is 0, -9. And again, you would type that in, no spaces. Questions so far? All right, then you've got your test for symmetry. So this says specifically test for the x-axis symmetry, the y-axis symmetry, and the origin. And the same thing's going to happen on your quiz. It's going to ask you to separate those out 3 parts with a yes or no answer. That's it. So for the x-axis, we're going to plug in the -y. I'd get -y equals x to the third plus 10x. Nothing simplifies. It doesn't go back to the original, and it's not the exact opposite. So the answer for the x-axis is no. Then I go to y-axis, and for this one, I plug in a -x. So I get y equals -x to the third plus 10 to the times -x. This simplifies to -x to the third minus 10x. Now the x and the 10 change signs, but the y did not, so this is also still a no. And then the origin, y gets changed and x gets changed. I get negative y equals negative x to the third minus 10x. Doesn't go back to the original, but every single sign is opposite of what it was at the beginning. So this means the origin is yes. Questions on any of the warm-up? Okay, so we're going to practice the submission part on the, like it's literally the answers to these and one more question because I want you to look at the format. And you're going to practice it through Canvas. So most likely what you're going to want to do is split your screen between Canvas Web and your Notability. If you go through the app, realize that the directions on some of these questions are going to be a little bit different. I set it up so that you're going through the web. Graph, so I'm going to go back here. Ooh, not like that. I'm going to take a picture of just the graph. I don't want all the work in this picture. I want just the graph. Work with me here. Unlock. There we go. Holy moly. Sorry, I had to explain everything. Group you. But then unlock you. Let's see. There we go. Just this graph. So you can get it as close as you want. You can crop it if you need to. But I really just want just this graph. I don't want any other work for this specific question. If you go to Canvas and you go to the module and you scroll to the module that we're on, which is chapter 1, underneath where it says, oh, I didn't change that. It should say it says R1 to 1.1. It should say B1. I'll change that. It says 8.25 NG for not graded because this is practice, right? Practice quiz submission. You want to click there. Now on the top it says submit the answers to the warm-up to these questions, but notice everything in teal is the directions that will be on your quiz for tomorrow, so prepare yourself for this. You will only have one submission for the quiz. Obviously, read these guidelines carefully. Students must log on to the Zoom meeting using an additional device. So your second device, being a phone, a laptop, a secondary iPad, is how you're going to log into the meeting tomorrow. If you don't have that device, then at the end of this call, you're going to stay on, and we're going to talk about what you have to do, okay? But you want to log in with the second device, which means practice logging into Zoom from that second device today. Then you're going to access the quiz through Canvas. So on that second device, in the very beginning of class, I'm going to say any questions. We'll go over some questions on the actual quiz review. And then when there's 30 minutes left in class, you will start your quiz. Okay? I gave a little bit extra time this time to make sure that we understand the flow of the quiz. But after we get the hang of these things, the time is going to get tighter for quizzes. So just keep that in mind. Your entire workspace must be visible through the Zoom camera the entire time. So as you get into class tomorrow, I'm going to say, hey, I need you to move this back. I would expect that I could see I would move, if this was me, I would have to move this back. And I'd have to be able to see myself and my workspace the whole time, okay? So I will tell you, you need to move it further away. I will tell you, you need to move it closer, whatever it is, until everybody's right tomorrow. But keep that in mind. I want to see your entire workspace and your face. You will have your mics unmuted during the quiz tomorrow, which means be in an environment in which it's quiet. I don't care if there's a dog barking in the background or any bird chirping. I don't care about that stuff. But be in an environment that's by yourself because you need to have your mics unmuted. You are not going to you can use your own notes. So if you wanted to make a little reference sheet for you today, you can use your own notes, whether that be a printed hard copy or on Notability. That's why I'm allowing the split screen to happen. You can use your notes, okay? Don't think you're going to be able to go in and out of homework and warm up and notes and all that stuff. You simply will run out of time. You need to make a short little compiled reference sheet. If that's on your quiz review that we're about to talk about, then that's probably the best opportunity to do that. That's fine, okay? For this quiz, there's no calculator, which means no phones on your desk. Nothing else can be on your desk besides your iPad, your scrap paper, your notes, and your writing utensil, okay? So no calculator and no phone should be visible. If you have a phone, it should be your secondary device. You're probably logging into that, okay? That's fine. But nothing should be visible on your desk. And you have to show your work for each question using Notability or paper, and then you'll submit your work for your last question, which I'll show you what that looks like. Questions so far? Okay, so if I click take the quiz, it's going to give me my questions, okay? The directions are still at the top. I did it all the questions on one screen for the warm-up, but on the quiz tomorrow, it'll be one question at a time, so keep that in mind, okay? I'm not going to lock you into the question, so if you get stuck, skip it, go back to it. That's fine. For this quiz, that's what we're going to do at least. Okay, so number 1 says complete the t-chart and then graph the equation and submit the picture to the graph on the next question. You already have these points, right? We just did them. Does that make sense? So you're just going to type these points right in there. So this should be 0. This should be 1. This would be 0. This would be -3. Good so far. All right, next question says insert. Go ahead, Matt.
Negative sign, do we just do like the normal dash?
Yep.
Okay.
Good question. Okay, insert the photo of the graph to this question. From the web, you're going to use the mountain icon. So this is where it gets a little catchy. So you got to practice this. You're going to go to your... Now I'm going to go back to question 2. And then you see the little moon and stars. It looks like a mountain with, not stars. It looks like a mountain with moon on it. That's your embed image icon. You're going to click that. Zoom out. Okay, this little box, I don't know if it's there, pops up. It's insert/edit image, okay? Listen carefully because you're going to have to do this a lot in the next couple of however weeks, whatever it is. You're going to click on Canvas. You're going to click on the words My Files. Now the upload file should be a dark teal. You're going to click on Upload File. Go to your photo library because that's where your screenshot is. Go to All Photos and grab that screenshot that you just took. So you are now submitting a photo to this specific question. Click Update, and there's the answer to the question. So the answer to the question is just the graph. You with me so far? Yeah, okay. Now I go to the next question, which is find the x and y intercepts and enter them in coordinate point format. So we just said I'm going to be picky about how we enter these, right? I want them to be in coordinate point format. So I'm going to put my little cursor in there. And I'm going to do 0, no, sorry, this is -3. -3, comma, 0, no spaces, close my parentheses. Now there's 2, so I'm going to separate it with a comma. 3, comma, 0, close those parentheses, okay? On the bottom it says don't use any spaces. If there's more than one intercept, separate them with a comma. So hopefully you remember this, but the instructions are right there. Then my y-intercept, open the parentheses, 0, comma, -9. Close your parentheses. Questions on that one? Next question, test for symmetry. So notice it says 3 different drop downs. Is it symmetric to the x-axis? And our answer was no. Is it symmetric to the y-axis? Our answer was no. Is it symmetric to the origin? The answer was yes. The good news there is you get partial credit. So if the x-axis is no and the y-axis was yes, but you got it wrong, it will give you partial credit. It's going to give you a 3rd credit. I think that question's like 15 points. So it gives you like 5 points for each part you get correct. So it's not an all or nothing scenario. Still with me? Yes? Okay. Now this one says enter the standard form of the equation of the circle with radius 5 and center -4, 6. Use the equation editor on the text box to complete the exponents. So you don't have exponents on your keyboards, right? I don't want the little caret stuff. You got to start to learn how to use an equation editor because that's how you're going to enter your stuff into WebAssign. So the equation editor is the little x, square root of x symbol. So I'm going to start, I'm going to put my cursor in there because I need to type first. It would be x minus -4, so that becomes +4. Where's my plus? +4. Again, no spaces. Close the parentheses. Now, the exponent is in the little square root x. This is subscript, and you put the 2. To do it? Yeah. Insert equation. Okay? There's your exponent. Then it's plus y, this would be -6. Again, no spaces. Close your parentheses. Go back to your equation editor. Subscript 2. Insert equation.
It doesn't work for me. Every time I go to type 2, it disappears and doesn't put it on.
Do you see I had to do it twice? Try it one more time. And then in 1 second, I'll show you how to do the whole thing this way. And so just give me a second and I'll do it that way too. So then 5 squared would be 25. So that's one way you could do it, is just the exponents in the equation editor. The other way is you can actually go to your equation editor and type the entire thing. So I can go parentheses x, what was it again? Plus whatever the numbers were. It's making me do it twice. It's being super glitchy. What was the number? I'm going to put 3. That might not be right, but I'm going to put 3 because I don't remember what it is. Okay, then hit the subscript 2. I don't want parentheses there. 2. Then the plus. It's funny. It's making me hit it twice and then it's correct. Parentheses, yep. It's super confused. Y minus. Hey.
Wait, which button do you press for the equation editor?
The little square root of x.
Okay.
I forget what this number is too. I'm just going to put in numbers so you can see what it looks like. Subscript 2 equals. Yeah, my numbers were all wrong, but you understand the process. Okay, it's super glitchy, so be patient with it. If it happens tomorrow, you get like super frustrated. For tomorrow's quiz, I would say I will let you use the caret. So if you are getting super frustrated, I don't want you to get frustrated by a quiz, okay? I want you, because I know WebAssign's a little bit better. I want you to focus on the content, not on the actual the format of this stuff, okay? It makes it easier to grade it when you follow that format, but where's my caret? There's, you could type it like this.
Miss Criswager?
Yep.
So you wouldn't have to show your work for this one, right?
No, to be honest, this is not going to be a question, Amanda. I just needed you to do something quick. Yeah, I needed you to do something quick. You're going to have to find the standard form of a circle, either given the center and the end point or the 2 endpoints, like the ones we've done. But I needed you to work on the format, which would be like this. So I would take, obviously, remember the numbers are wrong, but I would take any 3 of these formats, okay? So you can either try to get that subscript. Okay, I don't know if mine's glitchy because I'm in Explain Everything and not in Canvas, so that might be part of why it's glitchy. Or if you want to use that caret, that's fine too. When you get into WebAssign homework, you're going to see it mark questions wrong if you put like a capital X instead of a lowercase x. So I want you to start getting the habit of that kind of stuff, okay? I want you to not freak out. But when we get into WebAssign, it will be super picky about your format. Any questions so far? Okay. So now keep in mind that there are specific types of questions that Canvas will auto grade and specific types of questions it will not. So a question like 4, 3, and 1 are all going to auto grade it, which means right now the most amount of points I can earn is 1, 2, 3, okay? Don't panic. Even when I say to not show you like the feedback, it will immediately give you that score. I don't want you to panic, okay? Then I have to add on points for things that are essays, which is like 5 is an essay question, and the picture is an essay question. So again, I don't want you to panic, okay? And then the very last thing that you'll do, oh man, I didn't do it. I thought I was smarter than this, is upload a picture of all of your work. So you're gonna take a picture just like you did with the diagnostic. Okay, you're gonna take a picture of either your notability work, you can screenshot it, or you can send it to your files and then upload it. Or you can take a picture of your hard copy papers. Remember, if you're gonna use hard copy, only use the fronts so that you don't do front to back because it makes it easier to just submit one picture. If you do front and back, you gotta take a picture and then a picture of the back, and then you gotta pull them both into Notability, and then you gotta submit a PDF. So it just is extra work on your end, and I don't need you to stress out on time because of that kind of stuff, okay? So questions for me as far as procedure goes for quiz. Again, I'm gonna let everybody go like maybe 2 minutes early so that anybody that doesn't have a second device, which hopefully you answered me on that survey on the Google form, but if you don't have a second device, I'll talk to you specifically at the end of the call. But any questions overall on that kind of stuff?
Where do we submit the pictures of our work at the end?
It's not on this practice, but you will get a question that's a file upload question. Here, I'll show you what it will look like because I'll just edit it now. So you won't see it on your end, but I'll edit it so that you can see what it would look like. I'll leave student view, edit. You want to be on camera? There's Dean Frank. Say hello. They're waving.
Guys.
We're practicing a quiz for tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah. Hang on, let me mute you guys. All right, so it will look like that. Let me just show them the preview. And then go to preview, save. Preview. So if you want to practice the upload, you can go back in, you can do it again. It will look just like this. It's going to say choose file, and you can either pick a picture or you can pick a file. Okay, go to Canvas and get the quiz. Let me make sure I publish it. Get the quiz review and get that PDF open so we can talk about. Hang on, 2 seconds. Yep, it's published. Get that open, and then we'll talk about that in a second. First for everything. All right, this is what you should have gotten for B2. Okay, the first one was you're just plugging in to see if it's a yes or no. The A is a yes, the B is a yes for number 5. They both ended up with a balanced equation. For number 8, the A was a no and the B was a yes. Questions on those? Okay, then came the graphs where you're plotting the points, where you got specific points to plug in. You should have gotten -2, -4, 0, -1, 2/3, 0, 1, 1/2, and 2, 2, and then it should have been that line. For 13, it should have been -4, 4, -3, 0, -2, -2, 0, 0, and 1, 14. And the graph looks like the thing at the top. Number 23, now we started it and said use intercept symmetry and additional points, right? So 23, the x-intercepts, let me zoom in on this a little bit. The x-intercepts were plus and minus square root 2, so we approximate that. The y-intercepts are 0, 2. There is no x-axis symmetry. There was y-axis symmetry, and there's no origin. So I plotted those 3 points, and knowing that it's a parabola, that's super grainy, huh? Is that blurry for you guys? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Try to think of the best way to do this. I know. Okay, I'm going to go over it on the... I'm going to try to go over it on Zoom, but then I will... I'll post these directly onto the assignment, too. Okay. 27, 26 is up here. Yeah, it's the square root. Yeah. Okay, again, I know it's super grainy on the Zoom video, but it's on the YouTube video, and I will post these. The x-intercepts are just one of them, 1, 0. The y-intercept, 0, 1. And there's no symmetry for the x, the y, or the origin. And then I plugged in an additional point. So I had the 1, 0, the 0, 1. I know it's a square root, and it wasn't going to the right, so I plugged in points to the left. If you had plugged in points to the right, you would have seen them be undefined because they're a square root of a negative number and you can't do it. So I just plugged in -2 and I ended up with square root 3, which is about 1.7, 1.8. So I plotted that point. 27, the x-intercept's 2, 0. The y-intercept's 0, 2. There's no symmetry, not the x, not the y, or the origin. I plotted 2, 0, and 0, 2. And then I wanted one additional point. So again, think you want at least 3 points. So I plugged in 4, and I got 4, 2, and then I got the v. 30, my x-intercept is 4, 0. The y-intercept is none because it was the square root of a negative number. There is x-axis symmetry, no y, and no origin. So when I plotted the 4, 0, I had to plot additional points to get. So I plugged in 1, and there was nothing. So I knew the parabola pointed to the right. I plugged in 6, and it was plus and minus square root 2, which again I approximated. And then the last page on this is your graphing calculator one, which we will get to probably after the quiz, I think is when I'm going to have the time to do that. But you don't need it beforehand anyway, so it should be okay. All right. So again, sorry if that's blurry on Zoom. Yeah. All right. So if this is your equation, right, and I'm testing for symmetry, the negative y is just like a regular. It's negative y equals absolute value of x minus 2, right? So that was a no. When I get y equals absolute value of negative x minus 2, if the x is by itself in here, then the negative goes away. But because there's another term in here, I can't simplify it. So it stays the way it is, and that means it's different, right? But if it was just y equals absolute value of x, and I plug in a negative x, that negative is always going to come back positive. I can't do it if there's another term inside.
The still stays negative as well?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. But if it's by itself, it goes away. Because if you think about it, that should make sense. That has y-axis symmetry, right? That is a v. That's your like parent function. That has y-axis symmetry. Whereas this one is 2 units to the right. It doesn't have y-axis symmetry. It's symmetric over the x equals 2 line. So if the x is by itself inside the absolute value, the negative goes away. If it's not, it does not. Good question, Christina. Everybody else good on the homework? Again, I will post this PDF because I know it's super blurry on Zoom, but it's also on the YouTube video. Which is here. So this is on Canvas. Okay, this is your quiz review. I have to do the answers to it, but then I will post that. This might be where you want to create your little reference sheet. So it's only on one file and you're not going in and out of your notes. This would probably be the best way to do it. I could add the distance formula. I could add the midpoint formula. Okay. I could add my rules for symmetry and intercepts here. How do I do those? I could work them out on here. Everything else that's on here is something you could see on your quiz. I want to remind you that the format of this question is going to be different. Okay. The right triangle one, it's not going to tell you it's a right triangle. It's going to say like this, find the length of each side and then classify it. So you'll write A, B, it has letters. You'll write what BC is. You'll write what AC is, and then you'll classify it as right, equilateral, what am I missing? Isosceles or none, okay? And these, if your answer is something like 5 square root 7, your answer is going to be modeled as 5 SQRT 7. It's going to look like that. Okay, because those are short answers. I didn't make them essay questions, so that you can't use the little text box square root, the equation editor that I got. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, we're doing this on camera tomorrow, so if you have a question, you're going to ask while you go. That's the beauty of being with me while you're doing it on Zoom, okay? All right, and I will post the solutions to this. You will not turn this in because they will be all worked out, and they will be on the assignment by the end of today. Okay, I just have to tweak one. Go to the next page, and then I could add in here the equation of the circle. Okay, all that stuff can be on this document. That's fine. And then you can use this document as your reference for the quiz. You're going to stop. It says it in the instructions on the quiz, on the review, but you're going to stop it, go through number 10 and then stop because that's 1, 1.